All right. Hey, everybody. So, Tyler, question of the day. I'm just going to go right into it. And
Okay.
We can do the welcome. Is Titanic actually a good movie? Yes or no?
Is Titanic actually good? I
Is it
think
overrated?
it is. Yes. So yes, it is overrated. I 100% respect the fact that it's overrated, but I do think it's a good movie. I enjoy it. It's
I agree.
too long. I don't know if it has to be that long, but I think it's a classic. You know, it's one of those, if you haven't seen it and you're a little bit older, you should watch it. It's pretty good. And there also is just this, there's just something fascinating about the real footage that they have, like of the Titanic, like when they have the little I don't know what they're called.
Water camera or something?
Yeah, they're like water drones. I don't know what the proper term are for, but seeing like real footage of the Titanic is pretty awesome. I love seeing like old buildings and, you know, like rundown areas and like Chernobyl and stuff, and also seeing this like underwater just things that have just sat there for years and years and years. It's just super fascinating, and Titanic does show that. So
Yeah, it does.
I think it's cool. And if you are someone who doesn't know that the Titanic is real, well, it is. And what you see in the movie is a fictitious act of these two people. But obviously the story of Titanic is real, and it's insane and very sad. But they do a good job of like at least showing what we think went down.
And you get to see babyface Leo, and who doesn't want that? You know, I mean,
that is also true. That is one of his like earlier movies, right?
I mean, he was doing movies when he was like super young, like before he was 10. But like that was definitely, I think that was one of the movies that really kind of broke out his star.
Was he one of those Disney people? You know how like there's like people like Tom Cruise who was on like Disney when he was a kid and stuff. Was he a Disney?
Like the Mickey Mouse Club and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I know that his very first movie, and I might get called out for this, I believe though that his first movie is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And he was in that movie with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And I don't remember much about that movie, but I remember Leo in it because like that was like his very first role. It was really good. I liked it a lot.
Nice.
Also, just random fact, talking about how long Titanic is, I found out the runtime for the new Batman movie that's coming out on March. Everyone should go see it. The movie is 2 hours and 55 minutes long.
Wait, is it another Snyder film or no?
No.
Oh,
no.
wow. Surprised.
I don't remember who the director is. The cinematography of the movie looks amazing.
It does.
I get a lot of Dark Knight vibes from it.
Super.
I'm really excited for it. I did not imagine it would be this long.
No,
that's kind of a shock.
Surprises me.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Hopefully it deserves that long runtime. I don't know if the Riddler deserves 3 hours, but you never know.
That almost makes me wonder if it's just gonna be the Riddler then, because like you said, that's a lot of Riddler content.
Well, we know the Penguin's in it, and I mean, just from the trailers, I'm inferring that like in this universe, Batman's like the Waynes were not good people, and like the Riddler's trying to like get them defaced or like, you know, like kind of lose their public image. That's kind of what I'm feeling, getting the vibe of.
Yeah, definitely.
Which makes sense if they go that path. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of also matches with that newer Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. I was like, oh, like I wonder if this is in that same universe. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see. Be cool to it'll be cool to see if they do anything post credit, or if they do any like showing of characters that have been in other movies.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Because what else do they have? They have the Joker film, and there's like another one that was in that like dark universe, right? There's like another movie, or am I not thinking that?
I'm not sure.
Because it's
I
not.
can't remember.
Yeah, for some reason I thought there was like another recent like dark kind of style, but The Flash though, that has its movie coming out, And they're doing some similar stuff to what Marvel's doing. They're bringing in some other flashes from like other areas, like the TV show. Yeah, he'll be in it. And I think they have like other Flash.
I think everyone's committing fully to this whole multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Flash and Arrow did it first, but like everybody's kind of jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Well, and the Flash did start multiverses as far as like comic books go, because the Flash was already time traveling due to his speed. So at least
he's going so fast. Yeah.
At least they're staying canon. That's all I want out of DC, is just to keep on sticking to what the comics say.
I know. Come on, DC, you got to catch up. Seriously.
So bad.
Oh, gosh. What's up, everybody? We are Calling All Nerds, and you have answered the call, the beacon in the sky, if you will, not the Batman beacon, the Calling All Nerds beacon. We are your friendly neighborhood hosts that talk about everything within the entertainment zeitgeist, and we are so excited to talk to you guys about some pretty incredible stuff tonight. This is probably, I would say, in recent memory, probably the craziest week in video games I've ever seen. This is pretty shocking stuff we're going to be talking about today, but just a quick overview. We're going to be talking about Microsoft's big news that they came out with this week, where they are set to buy Activision Blizzard, as well as we are talking about NFTs. Mostly Tyler's going to educate me on what those are, because I honestly have no idea, other than they're crappy drawings that people buy for thousands upon thousands of dollars for some reason. Makes no sense.
Accurate.
And if we have any extra time at the end of the podcast, we are going to share our thoughts on the newest Spider-Man movie, because we both loved it so much. It's in like our top 3 of the Marvel movies now.
Seriously.
And we're just really excited to talk about it. It's a lot to talk about, so we'll try and go a little faster than normal. But we are excited for you all to be here and to talk with us today. But I'll go ahead and get us started after we talked about Titanic and Batman. Let's go. Never thought I'd talk about those two in the same thing. Let's move to the big news of the week that honestly no one saw coming. There was no rumors of this. There was no leaking of this. Literally, Microsoft just placed it on the table for the internet on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
That they are planning to buy. It's not completed yet. The purchase is not done, but they are acquisitioning Activision Blizzard for approximately, I believe it's like $68.7 billion. Which in context, that I can't even fathom, Tyler, how much money that is. Like that's a ridiculous amount of money, first and foremost. But we haven't seen that kind of price point for an acquisition since Disney bought Fox.
Oh my gosh.
2020, when they bought Fox for $70 billion. That means that Microsoft literally spent almost the exact same amount of money for Activision Blizzard.
That's crazy.
So, I'm going to read this article real quick. I'm just going to go over some highlights, but this is from Jordan Serrani at IGN. How Microsoft Activision Blizzard's purchase compares to other major entertainment acquisitions. And so basically what he's talking about in this article here that I definitely recommend everyone go read is that, in short, this deal is worth more than the 15 most expensive game studio acquisitions combined within the past few years between PlayStation and Xbox. The other major acquisitions around this was AT&T buying Time Warner,
oh my gosh,
Microsoft buying Bethesda or ZeniMax, Tencent buying Supercell back in 2016. Just like stuff like this. This is something that, according to the article, Sony could not even hope to compete with. That's the crazy thing, is like I don't think they could even pay half of this amount of money for any kind of producer out there or game studio. They just don't have this kind of money to just kind of throw around. I honestly didn't realize Microsoft had this much money.
No, definitely
this just seems like such a ridiculous amount of money, and it's just kind of wild because there's just a lot of heat around Activision Blizzard right now, especially with Bobby Kotick, all the bad press that the business there is getting. So I'm wondering if Phil Spencer is trying to come in and try and just change up the house and try and get things a little more settled. But every Activision Blizzard franchise that they have now acquired through this I'm just going to read through real quick through this article. So through Activision, Xbox now holds the rights to Call of Duty, which is the number one purchased game of the last 13 years every single year. Crash Bandicoot, which is weird to say Crash Bandicoot is now a mascot of Xbox.
Weird.
Spyro the Dragon. Yeah, Spyro the Dragon. Guitar Hero. Tony Hawk. And then with Blizzard, they have Diablo, Hearthstone, Lost Vikings, Overwatch, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft.
Jeez.
And then they also have, with King, Bubble Witch Saga, Candy Crush, Diamond Diaries Saga, Farm Hero Saga, and Pet Rescue. I don't know what the heck those are. I guess those are more like mobile games, but...
Those are like, those like Facebook games that you used to always get invited to?
Yeah.
Those are like the king of Facebook invite me kind of games. Like they still just like roll in a lot of money just because you like microtransactions and all that kind of crap. So like King's a big company. The fact that they were able to like pull in even just like Candy Crush, even if there's still people out there who are like mobile games aren't games, well, it still brings in revenue. So
right. And obviously, I mean, the amount of money that they have spent is of course most likely more to the fact of Call of Duty and World of Warcraft being the two biggest names in this list for sure. But that's not where the story ends. I'm just going to kind of go through everything real quick, and then I definitely want to hear your thoughts, Tyler. But so basically 24 hours after this acquisition was announced to the world, and this acquisition, it's on everything. Like the news, like big channel news were covering this story. Everything. Sony's stock tanked 13%. They basically lost $20 billion in revenue. Because, shareholders who may not know much about the video game industry, they're just, investing in this company because they see that it's always ticking up. They probably saw this acquisition and thought, oh crap, like Sony's losing everything, or they're losing access to all of these different franchises. And so their stock just tanked within 24 hours and they lost a whole amount of money. And a lot of people were wondering how Sony was going to respond to everything that Microsoft announced. And they responded pretty candidly. So this is from WCCF Tech by Arnaud van de Velde. And basically Sony's people reached out and said, we expect that Microsoft will abide by contractual agreements and continue to ensure Activision games are multi-platform, a Sony spokesperson told the publication when asked about the matter. The big hits in particular produce a significant and often majority revenue from the Sony side. It wouldn't be financially sound to turn that revenue off, particularly because given Microsoft's mega portfolio, if the acquisition closes, because it's still up in the air, and there's a lot of talk about, is this monopoly? Is this something that should not be allowed? It doesn't need to. It's engaging in hard exclusivity that could risk alienating users on the other side. And so that was a big thing that Sony just came right out and said, we expect you to honor the contracts that are in place.
So I was thinking about that. Like Call of Duty specifically is the one that came to my mind. Because obviously like Warcraft, that's a PC game, and like nobody actually gives that much crap about Overwatch. And then
it's just sad because it seems like it has such rich characters. Like I want to know those stories. Yeah. And it's like they botched it. I don't know.
But with the Call of Duty, I was like, okay, that's massive because yes, Warzone is still one of the biggest battle royale games that is out there right now. You have, I would say, from what I can tell, which is just my area of people on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and stuff, you have Apex, you have Fortnite, and you have Call of Duty Warzone. And those are like the three Mac daddies, with Fortnite probably still bringing in the most money because of the just influx of how many people, and a lot of them are a younger audience, are playing that. I would then say that like probably Warzone is next, with Apex being third. And Warzone, I mean, that too has the battle passes, so that's how they get their revenue. They have their skins, and so just like the amount of money that gets poured into just Warzone. And then the way they do their model of, if you buy the new Call of Duty, you then upgrade the weapons in multiplayer. Those weapons go to you in Warzone. So it almost is like You don't have to buy the game, but you probably should. It's like that revenue is so massive. However, if they made it exclusive, that would just hurt them, because now that they own that, they can just get more money, whether they buy it on Xbox or they buy it on PlayStation.
And that's what I'm thinking as well, because Phil Spencer responded as well today, actually.
Phil, I love that guy.
I know. I like him honestly a lot too. But he basically responded on Twitter and said, we definitely are not going to take Call of Duty, these games, off of multi-platform. He worded it very specifically. Like, whenever I'm reading these types of tweets or announcements from especially CEOs of companies that are making big announcements like this, I tend to read the wording of it very carefully.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot that can be said that isn't actually said if you kind of read between the lines.
Yeah.
And the way that he worded it, he said, we definitely will honor our contracts. But the way he said it was almost like he sat down with Sony's executives and said, hey, if this acquisition goes through, we'll still be multi-platform, but you've got to make it worth our while.
Yeah.
And so now they kind of hold the cards, so it's like, now if they wanted to, they could charge a few extra dollars to PlayStation to be like, oh, you want access to the Call of Duty games, like the new ones, like coming out, because this acquisition probably won't be finalized until 2023 at the earliest.
Yeah.
But that means that like every Call of Duty game that comes out after 2023, Sony may have to pull a little more out of its pocket to pay for the right to have that game on their platform, because Xbox can demand, or Microsoft can demand that of them, because it is their franchise, which is just crazy to me. Like, the ripples of this, that's kind of like the main discussion I wanted to have with you on this topic, is how is this going to affect the gaming environment in years to come? Because I feel like we will not even see the ripple effect of this until like many years later. Like Phil Spencer is playing the long game here. He's been setting the studio up with the buying of ZeniMax, now the buying of Activision, Game Pass just getting bigger and better than ever. Like Microsoft is playing the long game of like becoming the best platform to play on. And Sony kind of got caught with their pants down a little bit here. Honestly, like I don't think they expected this. I really don't. And I think that they're kind of in scramble mode, because how does Sony respond to this? Like, they can't throw money out like that. Like, they don't have that kind of money, at least not that I'm aware of. And so, but I do think that they're going to probably start buying other, it's kind of like one of those things where I personally, and I want to hear your opinion on this, but I personally see in the years to come more acquisitions. I kind of see this kind of being, honestly, kind of the death toll of third-party developers in a way, or at least a lot of third-party developers. I kind of see, like, I could see Sony coming out and being like, oh, you're going to do that? Well, we're going to buy Capcom, or we're going to buy Square Enix, or something like that. Like, they're going to double down on like the studios that people play the games on their platform the most.
Yeah.
I could totally see that happening. It'll be interesting to see. But what are your thoughts with all this?
Yeah, I'll come back on that third party thing. That's definitely an interesting one to think about. My initial thought is to be like, no, I can't imagine that, but we'll kind of hit, I guess it depends on the definition of third party, but right. As far as like my initial reaction, it has, I don't know, maybe I'm just always optimistic about this stuff, because every time I hear about these things, I just get excited. And it's not that, like, I'm not just like this this fanboy of like Microsoft. Like, yeah, I do obviously enjoy Microsoft and like Xbox a lot, but I just get excited because I know that one big thing for the gaming industry in general usually is like money. For those who have listened to the podcast for, the past 16 episodes, that Max and I are both in the mortgage industry right now, outside of doing the podcast and everything, our day job. And in the mortgage industry, it's always known as this term being very volatile, just simply meaning that like it always just fluctuates. The market's either good, market's either bad. And with that, a lot of people lose their jobs. There's always layoffs, yada, yada, yada. Well, we're not in the gaming industry, but what we do share with that is the fact that the gaming industry too is something that has been known to be volatile. I mean, we've seen countless like layoffs happen and all this kind of stuff happen because they lose out on this money. And when you are like a smaller company, and let's say you can't survive, then you just, your company's just gone. And what gets me excited is when I see all this stuff, especially because and this is where the bias comes in. I do have a strong feelings towards Activision Blizzard because I've loved Warcraft ever since I was a kid. I've loved Hearthstone ever since it launched. It's still a game that I play on my iPad that I just keep to myself. And then as well as like StarCraft was one of the first PC games I've ever known. Diablo, I played the heck out. So it's like, and after all the crap that we saw happen to them, especially with the CEO and everything, it's like I've always liked Blizzard. I've always disliked what Activision did to Blizzard, and then it's just been hammering and down. And before this happened, I was afraid of the sense of, is Blizzard gone? Like, are they just going to like nix them? Like what's going to happen to them? And then I see this acquisition, and I'm like, well, that's a lot of money. And when you were talking about how like you didn't think Microsoft had that money, I didn't think Microsoft had that money to spend on their gaming. That's what blew me away. It's like
they must trust really well that they're going to make that money back, like in a few years.
Exactly. And so I'm hoping that whatever it might be, 65, $70 billion, whatever it comes out to be, I hope that's enough to where now the employees can feel safer in a way, and like maybe if they are in some of those subset companies and if they don't exist, like maybe they still get to retain a job because they're part of a Microsoft employee, and maybe they just get like shifted around to other, and none of it's ideal, but if it helps people just not lose their jobs, I mean, at least it's better than just being told one day, hey, you got to go, our company doesn't exist anymore. And it's like, oh no. So I'm optimistic in that. I hope something good comes out of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Tyler, because I think in a way this is kind of Activision Blizzard's second chance at like being a good company for their employees, because right now it is not. Like there's so much drama going on around Bobby Kotick, around the executives that were at that company in terms of just sexual abuse, racism, just the stories that you hear over the last 12 months have been horror stories where it's just like, oh my gosh, like the culture there is not good. There are walkouts all the time, people going on strike. Like it's insane. And people are demanding for Bobby Kotick to step down, and the shareholders are not letting that go. And it kind of makes me excited when Phil Spencer was just like, okay, well now I'm going to be the CEO of Activision Blizzard. And
Chad.
Right. And so I think I do think that's definitely a light of silver lining in this whole thing. I think in the most part there's definitely more good coming out of this than bad. More so for the employees, I would say, for sure. I also just feel like, it seems from the interactions that articles have had with Bobby Kotick, it seems that they're hinting a lot that after the acquisition is fully complete, that he's probably going to step down and kind of fade into the limelight, albeit with probably a check for millions upon millions of dollars, and he's going to live fine the rest of his life. But I guess some justice in that could be that his shadow was no longer looming over that company and giving it a bad name.
Yeah. And, I feel like something's going to happen after the acquisitions go down, because I can't imagine he'll stick around too much longer. And I do get there is some like, people are always going to hate on the internet, and it's just like the purpose of the internet at this point. But
right,
it's like he probably will get some fat payout and, a slap on the wrist. I'm just glad that he's gone. And I recognize, though, that it is super unfortunate, and I do wish more would come out from it. I have a feeling it won't, and he will just get the slap on the wrist. But at least, like, we just maybe just, like, move on from that, But, then when you were talking about, like, the indie companies, do you feel like something like this, I guess it, like, depends on what the definition of an indie company is. It's like, I still think small companies should exist. Like, we still need to have people like Telltale. We still need to have people. Of course, I can't think of any names at the top of my head as I start listing this stuff out.
No, but I know what you're talking about. Like the people that make Shovel Knight. You got like Blowfish, like different companies out there like that. Yeah, I'm not so much worried about those smaller companies. It's like the big names that I'm interested, that my head just kind of like, just, I'm no expert in the video game industry at all, but just in my experience of just seeing all this stuff happen for now over a decade, I guess there's just that part of me that's like, well, now the big game, like now the big players like Capcom, Square Enix, there's honestly not that many of them left that are not related in some way or not bought out by Sony or Microsoft. There's really not. There's maybe 20 or less.
Yeah, Peter's talking about 2K games. Like they're still out there, right?
Sony could not afford 2K. Absolutely not. I don't think they could.
I guess like Square, because they work closely with them.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, and kind of what I was hinting at before. The acquisition of Activision Blizzard for Xbox for Microsoft makes sense to me. Yeah. Because as someone who doesn't play Call of Duty or World of Warcraft, StarCraft, these games, I've always kind of associated those games as being like, oh, the best experience for those things is Xbox. So the fact that they bought Activision Blizzard, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. For PlayStation's always been that place for the action adventure, story-driven narrative, Japanese role-playing RPG games. Like that is their bread and butter. And so them buying Square Enix, or really even buying Capcom, that makes a huge amount of sense to me. Yeah. I personally feel like Capcom would be their pinnacle. The amount of IPs Capcom has would be so incredibly worth it for them. Although I think that would be probably the most expensive they could. I don't even know if they could afford to buy Capcom, to be quite honest.
This makes me also just wonder, like, what's going to now happen to the Game Pass. Like, Game Pass, we've been saying for the past year, is thick. And now that we're bringing in their first, like, MMO, well, I mean, there's Elder Scrolls, and Elder Scrolls doesn't have the subscription, but, like, World of Warcraft, like, what is that going to do now? Are we going to, like, is there going to be any, like, benefit to owning Game Pass to benefit World of Warcraft? Because that game, in my opinion, and probably some other enraged Reddit fans out there, is also dying due to the fact of just kind of crappy content, nothing's too fun. Final Fantasy had its surge, so it was doing better, and they just haven't been doing fun things with the game anymore. And so it's like, now that this is happening, are they going to try to do something where it's like, hey, if you got Game Pass, you get 3 months free of World of Warcraft on your PC? Are they going to try to? I don't think so. Are they going to try to bring Warcraft to the Xbox? I think that's a little bit harder of a task. But it's like, what's that benefit now from an Xbox thing? Like, what does Xbox have to do now with World of Warcraft, with maybe not Call of Duty per se, but like things that have been so just on a PC, like StarCraft? That's another one. Diablo. Oh, no, Diablo hasn't. That's also been a console one. I don't know. It's just like, what's going to happen?
I was just about to mention that, Tyler. You read my mind. If anyone can figure it out, I'm sure it's Microsoft, to find some way to include World of Warcraft, StarCraft, these subscription-based games, add that in some way, shape, or form to the Game Pass structure. Yeah. Whether it be, hey, if you spend $2 extra on Game Pass every month, you get unlimited access to PC's World of Warcraft. You can just play it.
Gosh, that'd be insane.
It would make sense though, right? Because now they own it, and so they can say, okay, well, keep paying for our subscription, because honestly, Game Pass is where their money is. Yeah, that, like, specifically for Xbox, their gaming studios, they're making so much money off of Game Pass, and the fact that PlayStation after this hasn't immediately come out and announced their Game Pass version is astonishing to me, especially because they should be trying as hard as they can to get that stock price back up. Mm-hmm. Granted, it's already going back up pretty smoothly because like any stock market thing, there's always that harsh dip, and then people kind of realize, oh wait, it's fine. Like there's more detail given, and so it just naturally goes back up. So they're gaining that money back. But I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you need to kind of say, well, hey, we're still here too, and guess what? We now have Project Spartacus or whatever they're going to call it, and say this is our Game Pass. You know, this is you can play PlayStation 1, 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, PSP, PS Vita. You can play the whole library, you know, for $100 a year, whatever it might be. But I think with this acquisition, I don't know. Part of me like wants to make a bet on it just to see what would happen, but it would be so crazy if Sony just came out in the next 2 weeks and was just like, oh yeah, by the way, all of our first party games free day one.
They got, I mean, compete. They got
like, oh yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West,
right free, there. Yeah,
day one.
Let people get access to Ratchet and Clank right now. Let people get access to Demon Souls, whatever they need to do.
They have to see the writing on the wall here that Microsoft is thinking endgame. They're thinking the future of like streaming is the future. It just is. Like like as much as people may not like that, I know I personally like to buy my games when I can, but streaming is just it's the future. It's where we're heading right now.
Yeah, and according to Games Radar, I don't know like what their source is per se, but 3 days ago, Connor Sheridan posted or wrote this article that said Xbox Game Pass exceeds 25 million subscribers and more Activision Blizzard games are coming. So the last public number that Microsoft pointed was a total of 18 million, which was a financial statement from November. And then now they're claiming at 25. They're claiming also today that game has now has more than 25 million subscribers. So like that's massive, and we already know that Starfield's coming. Right, that's a big game that's going to be coming to.
That's going to be a game of the year contender.
Oh
that's going to be huge.
And then like Elder Scrolls Online. It does okay. It has a tight community. Yeah. That's another one of those online subscription-based games. And now, if they try to bring in this like Warcraft, and they do kind of like what you were talking about, like, you want to have now like bonus packages, like add on $5, and then you get access to both Elder Scrolls or World of Warcraft, or maybe just $2, and you get to pick one. Or do you want to always have the brand new Call of Duty every year? Add on additional $1. The possibilities of what they could do is just so endless. And especially now with diskless version consoles that are specifically designed to not have physical discs. They are just streaming machines. And it just seems like they could do whatever they want, and it's wild. And I thought what was funny is I read this article that like came out, and I think it was just pure coincidence that this like just so happened to come out, but it was another Games Radar article by Austin Wood and Allie Jones that said, hours after Microsoft said it's buying Activision, the U.S. government says it's overhauling merger guidelines. Now, the article talks about how like this could have just been a mere coincidence that the FTC couldn't comment on the proposed Activision Blizzard merger specifically. But man, talk about timing. That's like kind of like the tagline of this article. And it is kind of true. I haven't fully read into this thing, but it's just interesting to see that. Here we go. This is from Twitter. So recent evidence indicates that many industries across the economy are becoming more concentrated and less competitive, imperiling choice and economic gains for consumers, workers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, which apparently is what the FTC said on Twitter. Didn't even know FTC had a Twitter. These problems are likely to persist or worsen due to an ongoing merger surge that has more than doubled merger filings from 2020 to 2021. And I just thought that was like kind of crazy that all of a sudden that just kind of popped out. That, again, is it a direct correlation because of the Microsoft thing? Maybe not, but it still makes some sense because what you were mentioning earlier of like people questioning, is this a monopoly? Do you think it is? Yeah. Do you think that they've like started to monopolize?
Not yet, I don't think. I think that this is a very loud proclamation. I feel like from Xbox being like, we can get whatever the heck we want. Like, I'm just like if you can
Bring
just
it
throw
on.
around, if you can just throw around $70 billion, that's insane.
They're gonna buy Tesla just because they can.
And like, but that makes sense. I mean, honestly, that is the one thing I am worried about a little bit, because competition breeds just better consumer choice. You know, you get more, you get better games, you get better people. And it's not just the gaming industry we're seeing this in, just like the government is saying. Like, we're seeing this in the movie industry. Disney has bought so many different companies. They kind of have a monopoly of like things right now. You know, you have Disney, you got A24, you got Universal.
They own ESPN, Disney, and I didn't even know that. It's like, geez.
Like, everything is just kind of being dropped into specific buckets of being like, oh, we're going to hold everything here. We're going to take all this into this basket, this into this basket. And so that's the one part of this that I do worry about, of like, is it going to get to a point where it kind of was at the whole beginning of the video, speaking specifically about video games, where we were at the beginning of this, back when, you know, Xbox first introduced itself. If you wanted to play an Xbox game, you had to buy an Xbox. If you wanted to play a PlayStation game, you had to buy a PlayStation. And I'm talking about like specific games. Like,
yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like since like 2015 to 2020, we had kind of this like golden age period where everything was everywhere, outside, of course, of the first party games. But it just felt cool. You know, it was like, oh, okay, we're all on the same side. Like, we're all just kind of playing games and enjoying it. Mm-hmm. Now it kind of seems like we're getting back into kind of a warfare kind of thing. And
I know.
Which I understand. And as much as I love Phil Spencer, as much as I am an advocate for Xbox and what they're doing for their consumers, that attitude can change with a flip of a coin. It's all about money, baby.
Yeah.
And like, it is like we have to remember that at the end of the day. The minute Xbox becomes what PlayStation is right now, they can immediately switch that around and be like, oh, we're going to charge more for Game Pass, or it's not going to be as much content. Like, it all just depends on how much money they're getting. And so, yes, right now they are playing to the consumer. Thankfully so. Like, we appreciate it, but they have to, because they're falling behind. With this acquisition, they're showing that they're trying to get ahead again.
Yeah, it's funny. Peter's talking about how, you know, the console wars are back now, and it's true. We haven't
I don't even know if it's a console war anymore. I think it's just a content war at this point. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
who has more?
Like, who has more stuff?
We want more.
Exactly. Like, I mean, it's terrifying to think about, but I mean, it's the same with streaming. Netflix,
you know,
Hulu.
Peter
Prime.
had mentioned too, like, what about Ubisoft or like Insomniac? You think Sony has any chance to be able to get someone like those?
Well, they already bought Insomniac.
Oh, they do own them now. Okay.
Yeah, they have Insomniac. I don't know about Ubisoft. I mean, I could see PlayStation going for Ubisoft, Capcom, or Square Enix. I feel like Square Enix is honestly probably the one that they can afford. Yeah, Square Enix is probably the one they could probably afford the most. They could probably buy that one for a couple $100 million.
I don't know. What would Ubisoft give them? You know, it's like Assassin's Creed. No one's really liked those recently.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Ubisoft they've kind of grown stale. You know, we've had that conversation before, but yeah, it's like they kind of just do the same thing all the time. They do Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Just Dance.
Oh yeah, Just Dance is bringing some good revenue. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just still going. But it is growing a little stale. They're kind of just resting on their laurels a little bit. So I don't know if they're going to go for Ubisoft, but I would not be shocked if in the coming months if we saw an announcement of PlayStation buying Capcom or Square.
Yeah,
I would not. I would almost bet my money on it.
Do they own From Software? Peter mentioned that one too. I don't know who owns From Software, if anybody.
I don't. I think From Software is still a third party, but that could be a big one too. Honestly, yeah, I didn't even think about Firm Software. If they bought Firm Software, that would be kind of huge. Although they really don't have that many IPs.
It says
outside of Dark Souls and stuff.
It says Katakawa Games is the parent organization. So I don't know how like massive Katakawa Games is. I mean, it does say that, you know, it is like a Japanese, you know, video game company, which is more than likely in their favor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like PlayStation would more so probably buy like Japanese studios.
Yeah.
Like that would just make sense to me. Like,
yeah. So
it could be Firm Software. It could be, I personally, I don't know. I feel like Capcom would be the biggest big boy move for them to do.
Yeah.
Because Capcom just has a ridiculous amount of great IPs. I just don't think they can afford them, honestly. They could. I mean, Capcom has very niche titles, but they're the niche titles that I love to play. Like,
yeah. Do they have Sega?
No, they don't actually. I think Sega is still...
That could be one
on its own. Yeah,
I could see Sega. That. I'm like looking at some different like company names right now because I know they got Blue Point. They got that last year.
Yep, they bought Blue Point. They bought 3 last year.
They got Naughty Dog, right?
Oh yeah, Naughty Dog's belonged to them since day one.
Yeah, Sega would be. Sega would be kind of cool if they went down on that one. I could see that, but yeah, no, I mean, we'll see. Like I feel like that's one of our biggest things we always talk about on this podcast is like, we will just see. We'll see what happens. We've been waiting for a PlayStation thing. It seems like something like that's going to be happening soon of like a PlayStation Game Pass, whatever that'll look like. So that'll be good to see. And then more than likely sometime next year, we'll probably start getting a hint or a taste of what it's like for Activision Blizzard to be under Microsoft's roof. So hopefully it's good stuff. We always want good stuff. But
yeah, this was... and before we move to you telling me what NFTs are, I completely agree with you. I feel like this is honestly the biggest hit of gaming news we've had in probably a year.
Yeah.
And it feels like when we have news like this, the video game industry gets very busy for 6 months at a time afterwards. So it's very exciting. I feel like it's about to be a very exciting time in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I feel like Sony's State of Play's got to be coming here soon. They got to have something that'll pop up here in a little bit.
Probably in like early February and just be like, here's why you want to stay on PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully they do something cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you want to dive into this NFTs?
I'm scared to, but yeah, tell me what this is. I honestly have no clue what NFTs are. All I know, like I said, is that they seem to be weird picture things that people make and they sell them for thousands of dollars or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We live in the day and age right now where if anybody's listening to this podcast in an archived library that sits somewhere deep below South Carolina in the year 2095, I want you to know the year 2020 to maybe even like 2018 to 2022, cryptocurrencies are just the talk of the town. Everything is about crypto. And I hope people in the future are listening to us just laughing hysterically at how dumb the idea of cryptocurrency is. So NFTs is a style of cryptocurrency. Crypto hit big, obviously, with like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all that kind of jazz. And it was kind of like the pioneers of showing that, hey, look, electronic, what's the right word to describe them? There's money to be made on owning a piece of something virtually. It has like something that lives in the virtual space now has a worth. And with that spawned NFTs. And an NFT, which I have links to all these like kind of like different articles, and one that I just kind of grabbed was The Verge their like way of describing an NFT. It was a pretty decent article, so I do have that listed in the descriptions of the podcast and whatnot. So an NFT is right now usually images, an image that someone creates online. Usually they're like really small. Typically you'll probably see them on people's like profile pictures, whether it be on, I don't know, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, yada, yada, yada. And that image, the original image, has a monetary value to it. And sure, you can copy it and paste it and own it yourself on your computer. But they try, I say they as people who describe NFTs, they try to tell you like, well, no one calls like copies of the Mona Lisa the original, right? There's only one true original Mona Lisa. So this original image that exists, that has been handed to you by the artist, you know, they give you the files. They say, this is your image now. That is the OG in a way. That is the Mona Lisa, the raw, hardcore Mona Lisa. And you own it. And with that, it can gain value on the blockchain, which the blockchain is where all this like cryptocurrency stuff lives. Now, I don't fully understand like how things can go up in price and down in price. I don't fully get that. It's very like stock markety and stuff. Yeah, it's weird. But so these images exist in the blockchain. And even though you can easily go into someone's Twitter profile and just like right click and hit save image, and then you now own that NFT as well, technically they're saying you do not own that NFT. So the reason though why this is becoming big, there's a lot of controversy. A lot of people are talking about how artists, and we'll get into why this is getting into gaming in a little bit, but there's been a lot of artists kind of hate NFTs. Some don't. Usually those are the ones that are making a lot of money off of it. But some are claiming that their art can be stolen and then sold on the blockchain as if that person is the original owner. So let's say that Max drew a quirky looking Pikachu and he just kind of had it somewhere, posted online. Never put a tagline really or anything like that. If it wasn't existing, in theory, I could just take that image and put it myself on this NFT blockchain and claim that I'm the one who made that. And now I'm getting all the revenue from it. And really, I don't really know how you dispute claims on who owned. This was at least when NFTs were first popping up. There was a lot of complaints about, you know, artists getting their crap stolen and stuff and sold for thousands and thousands of dollars. And so there's a lot of bad controversy. A lot of people just aren't enjoying it. And what's been annoying is that NFTs have now started to flood the gaming industry. And the three bigger ones that kind of came out were Konami, Stalker 2, and Ubisoft. So Konami is now starting to get involved in NFTs whenever they had their Castlevania, what was it? Their anniversary. They were selling some Castlevania NFTs. Ubisoft is also starting. They launched this new platform called Quartz, which is where people can like earn NFTs and like sell NFTs and trade NFTs. And then a bigger one, in my opinion, was Stalker 2. So Stalker 2, you know the Stalker series, right?
Vaguely. Okay. I'm not too familiar with it though.
Okay, so the Stalker series is definitely some pretty big hype. So like the first Stalker game came out in 2007, I'm pretty sure. And so now Stalker 2 is supposed to come out like this year, like pretty soon. I think it's, or maybe is it the end of the year? I thought it was soon. Well, anyway, so that game is to come out and really exciting, very like Metro-y. It's all about like Chernobyl and stuff, and
cool.
Really solid games.
Yes, I saw the trailer for Stalker 2. It looks incredible.
Okay, yeah. So
I'm in the Game Pass day one.
That game talked about how they were planning to put NFTs inside of the company was talking about how they wanted to put NFTs. So this article that I have from Polygon kind of talks about it. And what happened is everybody like raged online. And
they redacted it.
They did. So the makers of Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl on Thursday, which this article was written way back in December, abandoned plans to introduce NFTs to their post-apocalyptic game shortly after posting and quickly deleting a lengthy defense of the revenue-generating scheme. Based on the feedback we received, we've made a decision to cancel anything NFT-related in Stalker 2, GSC Game World tweeted at 6:16 p.m. Eastern Time. And it was only about 90 minutes after explaining why it was bringing it to the game. So 90 minutes after them making like a lengthy explanation of why they wanted it, they already just redacted it.
So there's just very much an overwhelming amount of negativity regarding NFTs.
Yeah. And so this is like I guess this is like the reason. So it says, Dear Stalkers, we want to give you a detailed comment on yesterday's announcement of NFT bonuses for Stalker 2. GSC Game World is an independent game development studio. We have no publisher, but we do have wonderful partners, an incredible team, and a dream of a game that you will sincerely love. Just like all the other devs, we need two main resources, time and money. And so this is their like official article, right? So Stalker 2 is truly the biggest and most complex game we have ever created. All the funds that we earned during the development process, including the potential income from NFT, will be spent on improving the long-awaited game to make it even better. Now, why did we choose NFTs? Well, it's a new technology. We're eager to do NFT right, give certain fans an opportunity to get into the game without interfering with other players' experience. That's why the token, and then, it just keeps on going on. So the big thing was that they just were like looking for the money, which I get. I definitely understand, but there's just like so much hate around the NFTs. And one thing that some people were talking about were how they were so excited that, oh, look at what we as just some normies were able to do. We got so upset and we all like rose up to try to voice our opinions as to like why we just didn't like NFTs, and Stalker 2 redacted it and everything. And to me, this just seems like a double-edged sword. It's like I'm happy but sad of like hurting their revenue services. I don't know. As someone who hasn't too much knowledge on like the NFTs, and I know my explanation probably is not the greatest, what's your like initial reaction hearing that they were going to do it and then they redacted it?
I mean, it's not surprising. Especially just the little I've heard of NFTs, how they are not amazing for the environment, I guess, due to the increased amount of energy usage.
There is a question on that.
Yeah, and it just seems overwhelmingly so that the use of them is for very financial purposes, like just making money off of not that great of content, just trying to take the easy win. And I don't know, it just seems very shady to me. Just the explanation of it just makes it seem shadier. It's funny, like now hearing about it, like they're trying to even do it with vocal tracks. Like last week, Troy Baker, one of the biggest voice actors in video games, announced that he was partnering with an NFT company to just do voice clips of his voice, just saying lines and like selling his lines to companies. And he got so much crap about it within 24 hours that he came back on and he's like, hey, I didn't realize that NFTs could be this bad for the environment and for my fellow voice actors. I'm definitely going to look into this further and probably will partner with them. But like people were like saying like, dude, if you do this, you're basically devaluing your own voice. Like you're devaluing your work, you're devaluing other voice actor work. Like, because someone can just claim your line that you speak in this NFT and you can't use it in any other video game ever again or something like that. Or like, and it's just like, it's just crazy. It's the fact, I think that's the part that scared me a little bit. It wasn't so much the pictures, but the fact that they're now trying to do this where someone can own a spoken line of dialogue.
Yeah.
is kind of terrifying to me. Like that's just kind of like it's in a different way as like is how expensive it is to sing happy birthday in you know, in a movie or something like that. Like that makes sense to me. Like someone wrote that song, put a lot of thought into it, and like, you know, like I get that. Just saying like, you know, get down, or like you know, watch out, like some random line, and it's Troy Baker's voice, and someone can just own that for $100,000, whatever they buy it for, and then it can never be used in anything ever again. That's kind of terrifying to me. That's it kind of goes into like, is that a problem with freedom of speech? Like, I don't think so. I'm probably overthinking it, but like, I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. It just seems like a very weird thing to try and pursue as a global unit of people, of like, why are we trying to make this a thing now?
Yeah, I didn't hear about the voices or that like situation, but I you know, I could see it. It's like what I was saying of these, and all this crypto whatever is just virtual, right? It's just whatever exists in the cloud. And yeah, an audio file, that's something that they probably could tag it with. You have images, audio, maybe, I don't know, something else could like come out of this. And you know, you were mentioning how how's it like affecting the climate? That's a big thing, that it's like both NFTs as well as crypto, just like mining has been a concern. Like a lot of people who go really hardcore, let's say on like mining, like Bitcoin, they have just these massive buildings with racks upon racks of GPUs. And all these GPUs run at 100% power, 24/7, 365, right? And they just output so much heat. And there really is like a concern on if it's like how it's affecting like the environment. And what I thought was crazy is, I don't know, let me look this country up to see how like big this is. So there's this country called Kosovo, which is north of Macedonia. And it has a population of 1.87 million, and it is in Europe. And so they have now banned crypto mining due to blackouts. So according to BBC, on the 5th of January, Kosovo bans cryptocurrency mining after blackouts. The government says security services will identify and clamp down on sources of cryptocurrency mining. The mining is energy intensive and involves verifying digital transactions to get cryptocurrencies as a reward. While all of Europe faces sharp price rises, Kosovo is enforcing rolling blackouts amid an electricity shortage. The Balkan state largest coal-fired power plant was shut down last month over a technical issue, forcing the government to import electricity at high prices. The 60-day state of emergency declared in December gave the government power to allocate more money for energy imports and impose stricter restrictions on power usage. So it really is a pretty interesting article to think about. But yeah, due to all this like they were having like blackouts happening, they're like, you can't mine. It takes too much of our energy. Like we're low on energy already as it is, and if you guys keep on mining, we're just not going to have enough. And so it's interesting to think that like they were having issues with power, not necessarily because of mining, but they identified that because of their limited power that they had, if they let people continue to mine, they were going to have enough energy for their country, which is so wild to think. Like something as just crypto mining could have that effect on a country, to be like, we got to make sure, we got to restrict you. We got to make sure you don't go overboard. And it's so crazy to think about. And yeah, I mean, I think like, so I have a RTX 3080, and the wattage that it drives, let's see, is roughly 320 watts. And I think that's like the max wattage that it uses. Right. So it consumes around, it says 340, but I think that could like go up to, let's say, like 350. And so let's just imagine that these people have, I I mean, they have to have probably like 300. And so that alone is already like 100,000 watts of just power, just with 300 graphics cards. And if that's just like one shop, imagine like 70 of those things, right? And it's just like 7 million watts of energy or whatnot. And it's so crazy. And obviously, we're a gaming entertainment podcast. And so seeing how this is now like entering the gaming realm, it's a little disheartening. Like I'm on the let NFT, or I'm on like the, just like cryptocurrency be its thing. I don't really want to become some type of like tender or anything that we have to like adopt. I don't really see the purpose of it right now. And I guess I'm just also surprised to see all these companies getting in on it, because there is so much like negative space around it. But I mean, if it makes some money, it's making the money. And I know that obviously that is what matters the most.
Yeah, Square Enix has announced that they're excited to try NFTs out. Like, I'm like,
and I know I just logged on to Twitter today for like the first time in a little while, and I noticed that now on Twitter you can find someone who has like an NFT background image, like a profile image, and like you can click the image. And now there's like a way to get more information on that NFT. I'm trying to see if I could do it on my phone. It might be like a PC thing only. But yeah, now like Twitter's getting in on it. And so it's like when you see someone who has an NFT profile image, you could do like maybe like right click or something, and then it shows you like, this is how much this NFT is worth. And this is all. And I don't know if it's just like when you add this just gawking of monetary value to things, that just makes it worse, man. I just feel like that fuels things so much bad.
Yeah, it just feels gross. It's like, look how much money I spent on this. Like, it's like,
yeah, and it's like, man, you just want to like boast about that, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
There are starving children in the world that could use this money. Like, it's just like, why are we doing this? Like,
yeah, and the biggest one that I have seen is this Bored Ape Yacht Club. And what it is it's just an image of a bored monkey. And I will, I'm going to post it. I posted on the YouTube chat. You can go to boredapeyachtclub.com.
Okay.
And this has been what I have seen as like some of the most popular ones. And I want to see if they have some of their prices on here. It's like crazy how much these things go for, but I don't know if I'll be able to find it just on their Bored Ape Yacht Club prices. Because some of these are just astronomical amounts. Oh, here we go. NFTstats.com says there was a Bored Ape. Let's see how much. Okay, this one sold for 1.6 million 24 days ago. There's an image of one that has like light beams coming out of its eyes, sold for $1.4 million just 9 days ago. And it seriously is like the same image, just like
different movements,
different colors, this like
is insane, dude.
Yeah.
Insane.
And so, I don't know how legit NFT-stats.com is, but the trading volume in the last 7 days for Bored Yacht Club is 46.5 million. They roughly have a 10,000 supply of tokens. Let's see. They've sold 158 NFTs in the last 7 days, and the average price of their NFT is roughly $300,000. And it's just like, what?
That is a disgusting amount of money for an image. It's like, oh, that makes me so. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it's just like,
it's so crazy because, like, to me, I'm looking at this one that sold for $1.6 million. I can right click it and I can save this image and I could just put it on my downloads tab if I wanted to, and I have it. And I know, I own a copy. I don't own the original. I just don't know if that argument holds true like it does with like a physical canvas. And I know like artists who do digital work, it's amazing. And I do think that if you are the original artist, you should be recognized for the art that you made. I just think that's a very difficult selling point for a virtual one. And now, like, not to say virtual art doesn't have its like monetary. I mean, like I paid for I've paid for some like logo work and stuff, and all that's virtual, and I recognize that. And I've seen a lot of people do virtual artwork, and I think it's amazing. I just like to try to sell this NFT the way they're doing just seems kind of weird to me. And I don't know. I feel like it like also loses, it almost like loses like the fact of like who the original artist was. I feel like in a way, like when I have like an art and I show it off, like, you know, usually the person's initials are in it, and I want people to know that this is the original artist. But with all these NFTs, does anybody really care, you know, like who the original artist was, or does it just matter of like how cool yours looked, and are you part of this club or whatnot? And I don't know, it just seems so interesting. But you know, like everything else we've talked about, we'll just see how this keeps on expanding. And like when I saw cryptocurrency kind of first started to come out, like Bitcoin and all that, I was like, man, what's going to come after this? And then I see all this NFTs and I'm like, oh geez, what's going to come after this now? And it just keeps on snowballing.
We're just getting stranger than fiction, man. The world is getting weirder and weirder.
That is actually a great definition. We are just getting stranger than a fiction. And it's just
like you just can't make this stuff up anymore. It's just like,
no,
our time, man.
We're just trying to enjoy whatever we can.
Yeah. Oh, well, I know we're running pretty long, but should we save the spoiler cast for another day, you think?
Yeah, I got a Philly cheesesteak sub that's been sitting next to me for like about 40 minutes now. I haven't had dinner yet. I got to chow down.
What are you doing?
I know. I wanted to finish the pod. It came after the podcast started. I thought it was going to come
Peter
earlier.
Just like place it right next to you.
He did. Like, he just came in. He's just been sitting here. So I was like, I think I'm going to have to call it after the NFT talk. But definitely still want to talk about what we're playing. And also, let me bring up the list of upcoming games too.
Yeah. So let's talk over what games are coming out. I guess over the next few days. Like we don't have to talk about the February games. But.
So today specifically, we have Baby Storm on the Switch and Mousecraft on the Xbox One. And this is all according to Game Informer. And then coming out up to the 28th of January, we have A Wild West Tale, The Artful Escape, Circuit Superstars, Daemon X Machina, Pokemon Legends Arceus, and Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. So those are kind of like the upcoming games to end off January. And then obviously our next podcast will more than likely talk about some February stuff, which should be pretty sweet. February is going to be insane with content. But Max, what are games that you've been playing the past couple of weeks?
Oh man, I have been in the thick of it with Tales of Arise on my PS5. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I think it's a JRPG, so you never know how long it's going to take you to finish it. I'm in like chapter 4, or the 5th domain, I guess, but I'm absolutely loving it. This is quickly becoming probably the best Tales game I've ever played since like Tales of Vesperia, Tales of Abyss. And I'm really excited about it because the game is beautiful. It's really kind of revitalized the Tales of series in a great way, where it makes me excited that we'll most likely just see another game like this very soon, because I would play this all over again. It's just a very pretty, action-heavy JRPG that is very anime, and I love it.
Nice.
And then on the Xbox, I've been playing It Takes Two with my wife. And honestly, this is probably the best co-op experience I've personally ever had. It's very fun. It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Parents. But like it's won Game of the Year for the Game Awards last year, rightfully so. I feel like it's just the game has such great pacing. I think we're getting close to the end of it. But for those of you that haven't heard of it or haven't played it, you play as this couple who are pretty much on the verge of divorce, are basically just told their daughter at the beginning of the game that they are planning to have a divorce. They are not doing well. They don't have good collaboration. And the daughter is upset. She runs to her room, and you see that she's made dolls of her parents, and she kind of cries over them. And some universal magic happens, and the parents transfer into the dolls. And then it's a race to figure out how to turn yourself back into humans, and you have to work together to go through the house and the outside gardens and everything, and just get back to the way you were. And along the way, it's just this beautiful story of people relearning how they fell in love with each other and why they need to work together. And just the way that you play it with your person, it kind of involves that collaboration where you have to work together. You have to verbally speak with each other and talk over how you're going to work, because each of your characters can do certain things that they need to partner with the other character for. And it's just beautifully made. Can't recommend it enough. Great game that we've been enjoying so far. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Nice. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting to hear that there are still like couch co-op games that are doing successful. I feel like for a while it was definitely like a struggle. Did A Way Out, are they the ones who did that game?
They are. Yeah.
Okay,
So this is their second game. They actually do a fun little nod to A Way Out in the game. And it actually makes me want to play that game. It didn't really grab me, the trailer of it, when I saw it. But honestly, with the amount of great work they've done with It Takes Two, I'm honestly considering checking out A Way Out.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, if it's anything like this, I just want them to keep making co-op games. They're doing an incredible job at it. And we need more great co-op adventure games. Like, you don't see that many of them. So
yeah, I watched the Rad Brad him play through A Way Out, and I liked it. I thought it was really cool. Definitely a satisfying watch.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out for sure. I wonder if Ruthie will play that one with me. I know it's a little more gritty than It Takes Two. But
yeah, that's got a good story. But yeah, so I am playing Spider-Man right now, the, I guess, PS5 upgrade edition. I'm going through the Spider-Man PS4, but I am playing on the PS5. And it is my first playthrough. I'm about, I think, save file said 80% of the way there. I am pretty much at the part where the world is in chaos and Spider-Man is trying to cleanse it all. So that's where I'm at with that one. And then I am also playing Brilliant Diamond, which I did just finish that last night, which, oh my gosh, the Elite Four was so hard. It was such a challenge. Because
Cynthia was insane.
So they gave Cynthia, I think Peter was telling me, 100 IV levels, which is great. Those are like the hidden stat levels that you can work on and everything. And like, there's like a whole way of how to train your EVs and IVs and stuff. And apparently, her Pokemon had like 100, hidden stats on all of them, which made sense. I went in there with like level 50s, like 55 to 60s, which is like pretty average, I'd say, for most. I had to leave, train my Torterra, Rapidash, and Gengar to level 75 each. And then I had like Jirachi, Mew. I had like some legendaries that were like in their 60s. And I still beat her with one Pokemon left and literally one shot left. Like, she killed all of my Pokemon, and I had just healed my Gengar. Her Garchomp was at yellow health, and I knew that if my move hit her, it was going to kill her, but I knew if my move missed for whatever reason, she was going to one-shot me and I was going to lose. So I did finally beat that, which was great, and I did get my first shiny around like 6:30 today, right before this podcast. So I am now in the post game of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, where I will more than likely kind of just be shiny hunting here and there. But I'm gonna finish off Spider-Man, and I'm either gonna move on to Miles Morales, or I may try to have a second attempt at Horizon potentially, or I don't know, or like Uncharted. I haven't like decided. I also kind of want to play God of War. I don't know. We'll see what my like next PlayStation game. I'm really trying to focus hard on my PlayStation right now. So that's kind of the reason why I picked up Spider-Man. But
I would definitely recommend, just while you're in the throes of Spider-Man, go ahead and play Miles Morales. It won't take you long to beat it, but it is very, very good.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely do that then.
Yeah.
And then so every podcast we like to also close out with what we call as our entertainment of the week. And so this week, Max has a show he wants to share, and then for me, I have a book series, which is the Mistborn book series, which is a series that Max introduced me to not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before. It just took me till last Christmas to start them. It is a really good fantasy series that revolves around these people who are Mistborn. It is. I feel like I've seen animes like you've probably more likely seen an anime like this style where there's like some dictator ruler that kind of rules it all, and he has these like unknowns like abilities that it's almost like let's say there's like 10 abilities in the world. He gets to own all 10, and then like some of his underlings might have like 5 abilities or 2 or 1, and then it trickles down, right? And then there's these people who are I guess mainly like bastard children who were spawn of someone who was in the hierarchy, and they are part of the slave community but also have these powers. And so you follow the main character, who is this female who has these abilities. Didn't really know what they were until she meets the other lead cast member of the book, and is now being like trained. And the reason why she is a Mistborn is because she has access to all of the powers, which is interesting because they're driven by metals in this world. So imagine you just having like raw copper flakes and you just eat them. That gives you like a surge of energy that lets you do a specific thing, like maybe push stuff. And then like iron might let you pull things, or another metal might let you kind of have like Jedi mind control powers. And typically people have maybe like 1, I think is usually what you see. Someone might have like 1 power, but with these Mistborn, they have access to all. Is it 8? I think it's 8 powers. Can't remember.
In the first first book, I think.
So they have, she's a Mistborn, so she has access to all of them, and it's kind of just her life as being a slave. Oh, not like she's not a slave, but she's part of like kind of like the slave community, which is just the slums. And she teams up with this ragtag group who dreams to overthrow their dictator. So that's how the first book's been going. But definitely recommend it if you're into fantasy series. And yeah.
Also, welcome to the Cosmere, Tyler. That is one thing. Like, for all of those of you that try out the Mistborn books, these are very much the best starting point for coming into it. Brandon Sanderson is probably one of the top writers right now in fantasy, because he is attempting something that no one's really done in the book world before, at least in fantasy, where he is creating kind of a Marvel scale universe for all of his book series, where all of his series take place on a different planet in the universe called the Cosmere. And he has stated that he has a 20-year plan. And by the end of all of his series, the heroes will all kind of converge on each other.
Interesting.
For one big story. So like, I don't know if you've read the glossary of the book or anything, but like it mentions that on every planet they have like this shard. There's like a shard or like crystal that belongs to the planet. And there's other books right now, like probably one of his big ones right now that he's writing, and probably the biggest one in the Cosmere is The Way of Kings. But I think one of the cool things about each of the planets is that each planet has a defined crystal. and it has specific elements that give the people their powers. So like in Mistborn, sorry, I'm getting nerdy real quick just because I'm really excited that you're liking this, because I'll introduce you to the other planets. They like how in Mistborn, like the powers come from metal. Well, in other planets, like in this book called Warbreaker, the power comes from colors. So like depending on like what colors you're attuned to, you can do certain types of powers. In the Way of Kings, it all has to do with more like gravity and just the ability to manipulate time and stuff like this. Like it gets very crazy, but really, really cool. And there's this one character who kind of he's in every book, and you really have to look out for his name. You won't really know about him until you read him, but he always shows up in every book, and he's kind of like a pathfinder. He kind of walks between the worlds and kind of helps nudge events in the direction they're supposed to go. And he's always called the same name, but he always shows himself as a different person. So he's kind of the overseer of what's happening in the Cosmere, and it's absolutely incredible. I'm super excited that Tyler's reading this series.
I can tell. Yeah, I'm excited. It's really good. I am on a kick where I'm like trying not to actually play too many PC games, which I think this is one of the first what I'm playing where it hasn't been RuneScape. I am on like I don't know, just like trying not to play my PC as much because I put so much hours into it. I'm trying to just like try out other things, like doing some of the PlayStation stuff and doing more reading and trying to like build Legos and all that. So it has been it's been nice. And I will say I was a little nervous because Max's reading level is so much beyond mine, and I was a little nervous I was going to start reading this book and not understand anything, like how it was when I tried to read Game of Thrones. But I was thoroughly excited when I was reading the first couple chapters, and Julie was like, "So how's it going?" And I said, "I understand what's going on. This is great."
I know it's pretty good. It's funny. I actually read all 3 books out loud to Ruthie. She liked the story too. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Mistborn isn't in some way been adapted yet into some sort of entertainment, which actually leads me into my entertainment of the week, which honestly, this show reminds me a lot of Mistborn in a lot of ways. I would almost love to see Mistborn made in this type of format. But my recommendation of the week is Arcane, which is on Netflix. It's an animated series made based off of League of Legends heroes. I've never played League of Legends in my life. I don't know if I ever will. But other than, I think I played Battle Chasers, and that was really fun. But you don't have to go into this knowing any of the lore of League of Legends. You can go in pretty much vanilla. This is probably the most beautifully crafted animated show I've ever seen, and it's from this random French studio in France or whatever. Like the amount of quality that is in the show in every frame is breathtaking. There are so many moments in every episode of this show where I forget I'm watching an animated show. Like the way the movement of the characters work, the world itself, it just feels so lived in, and it feels so effortlessly real. And it looks honestly like it's gotten a lot of love. Like a lot of people have their eyes on it, probably because of how good it looks. The story is great too, but it's, the story overall it's pretty fun, but I watch it honestly for,
I wouldn't say that's where it shines.
Yeah, the visuals. Yeah. The story isn't where it shines. It's still good.
Yeah.
But it's a tale as old as time. But like the visuals are just jaw dropping. I cannot recommend it enough. Just watch the first episode just for that alone, and keep watching. But it makes me excited that we are at this place now with like this, for me, personally, is the next evolution in animation for me. I was like, I want to see more shows that look like this, that have this fluidity. I can't imagine how much work that takes, but I was like, I can't imagine that animators at Pixar, at video game studios, at animation studios from Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or Netflix even are looking at the show and thinking, how the crap did they do that? Like, I have to imagine they are doing that, but it makes me excited because that's just upping the game. I can't wait for them to make another show that looks like this, because it blew my mind. Please watch Arcane. It is so good, and it's the most beautifully animated thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think definitely back what Max is saying about you really don't have to have any concept of what League of Legends is. I mean, if you're into gaming, you probably know what League is, and really that's all you need to know. There is obviously lore that was created before this show, and so that's always existed, but this is definitely, I would say, like the first really massive time that Riot Games has dove into that space. And there's this one guy, his name is Tyler One, and he is a Twitch streamer and stuff, and he does League of Legends. And the one thing that I saw a clip of him have on a Twitch clip one time was, he was like, yeah, when I went into Arcane, I wasn't that excited. I just kind of like their video game, and barely at that. And he talked about how he wanted to hate it, and when it was amazing, he got mad because he's just like, well, they've done it. He's like, they did it. They set the bar so high. They now can do one. I mean, we talked about how many characters League of Legends has. It's like well over 100, right? And so it's like, the amount of shows they could build off of their champion list is just insane. And now that they've done this, it's like, well, there they go, pulling the money.
I would watch them too. Like, I just give me more of this kind of animation. Like, I want it.
And they did their release so well. They decided to do 3 episodes a week, and it's only 9 episodes long. At least for this first season. And oh my gosh, was that so smart. Because like, as Max was saying, the storyline, I mean, it's all right. I felt like every time it kind of ended, I was like, yeah, every time like a third episode was over, I was like, okay, that was like an okay way to close it out. But, and those are places where they can just improve on. Typically you don't see too much of like, holy crap, your animation is so fantastic, work on your story. I mean, you don't usually hear that. And I almost feel like the animation part's the harder parts. It's kind of nice that they've kind of nailed the animation, and now they just need to focus on their writing. And if they get that, I mean, gosh,
it's a lot easier to do than that kind of style of animation. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be unstoppable. If they got an A team working on that story, it's going to be wild what they can create.
Yeah, I can't wait. Well, before we close out, Tyler, can you tell everyone how they can reach out to us, how they can find us all over the interwebs?
Yeah, so you can find us anywhere, typically on... Well, we don't really get on Twitter all that much, but you can find us on Twitter, Calling All Nerds. Typically, we are having our podcast, though, on YouTube, or you can watch us live at the Calling All Nerds YouTube channel, where we have descriptions of this everywhere. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcasting sites, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Simplecast, or maybe potentially any other podcasts that are out there. I will be actually looking up into that this evening to try to figure out other sites we could post them to. One thing I did want to talk about, though, Spotify specifically. If you find our podcast on there, Spotify has now allowed you to rate your podcasts. Before, that has only been on Apple Podcasts. So make sure also to rate us on Apple Podcasts if you have not already. And please go on to Spotify Podcasts. Find us there. It's the same, Calling All Nerds. Easy to find us. I post our links everywhere. And make sure to also rate us on Spotify. It just continues to help us. As long as we, have the ratings come in when anybody searches video game podcast, gaming podcast, whatever it might be that matches our SEO. As long as we have the ratings come in, it definitely helps us get like that visibility. So we really encourage that a lot. I think Simplecast also has a rating system, but again, we have our links posted everywhere. I always make sure to post the links to stuff in our descriptions on our videos on our YouTube, and then as well as just kind of on our social media sites. I have it on my socials. My personal ones, which are the Mr. Teenator ones, then obviously our Calling All Nerds has all that. But yes, that's where you can find us. definitely try to join in onto us live too. We have a lot of fun. We have kind of like a new look right now that we've been working on, where our live chat is actually kind of smushed between Max and I's webcams, and just come in, join on live, just talk about stuff. Usually I reply to the chat just on my own as I kind of see things that roll in and stuff like that. We bring up some topics that might be said as well in the chat, so it's a fun way to engage with the podcast live that you just obviously can't do in post. So we really encourage coming in and following us on there. And one thing I wanted to say that kind of crept up on us for Max and I, and it's funny because I know the number's not massive, but randomly we just noticed that we had 29 subscribers on YouTube. I just want to say thanks. We have no idea where this 29 came from, but we appreciate each and every one of you very, very much for just kind of coming in and subscribing. So if you want to obviously continue to do that and come watch us live or watch us in post, whatever it might be, please make sure to do that. So.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thanks, Ty. I think that wraps up. What is this, episode 16, 17? What are we on now? 16. Oh my God.
First one of 2022.
Ooh. Sweet 16.
All right, everybody. Well, hope you all have a good one. We will see you all later.
See you, Space Cowboys.
All right.
Sweet.